show you how I converted this pasta maker into a printing press. It's not new information. Loads of artists do it. Loads of people do it in different ways. I'm just going to show you what I did. And I'm all about easy and quick. So I'm hoping that this isn't too intimidating. I did use a saw and a drill. So if that's not in your skills, don't do it. Or you could show this to somebody who could help. So the pasta printing press that I have made, I'll just show you in case you haven't watched the other videos. I've got the printing press, I've got the bed, and I can turn the handle and take, once I've got some pressure in it, I can, that way around, I can take a print. In the same way I would with my etching press. So I've got my printing bed, I put my inked plate, ink face up, damp paper on top, the blanket to provide cushioning, and then the pressure of the press going through the roller wheel to take the impression. So that's all we're trying to do, is mimic an etching press. Obviously, we've got a very, very small etching press here. I think this one is 14 centimeters wide, but we could go as long as we like. So this isn't perfect. It's just something that you may have anyway, something that's quite inexpensive. I'll show you the one I bought, and something that's quite good fun. It needs to be fairly flexible. You know, you couldn't put glass or anything breakable through it. So I've used it for drypoint with on plastic because that's flexible. Collagraph card is flexible. It needs to be fairly thin collagraph. You couldn't do collagraph that was that deep. And what else have we done? And Tetra Pak. Tetra Pak is the fun one because it's free, recycled out your bin. And with Tetra Pak, you can combine elements of the collagraph and dry point because it takes the drawn mark so beautifully. And it's flexible, so that's why it's good for this. Obviously experiment. Again, I do have no experience with lino or woodcut or any relief work, but I'm pretty sure you could put something through. You would need to experiment with the thickness and the pressure. And I say plenty of other artists use pasta makers as presses. So have a look what everybody else has achieved. And through all that research, you'll find out what you need to do. So I'll take this apart and we'll go through all the different things you need to make it and all the different things that I made it with, and then that's it. You've got to go and figure out how you can do it yourself. So actually I'll put that over there. So that's the finished one. So I bought just off evil Amazon, but you know, go to your kitchen shop, look in charity shops, to be honest. That's the kind of place you might find them. But again, people are asking me for links, so I bought one from Amazon, the cheapest one I could find. I think it was about £25. It's a kitchen craft world of flavors pasta machine. Now, some of the machines come with lots of different parts of it to make your spaghetti and tagliatelle and different cut strips of pasta. All we want is the rollers, so the lasagna pasta bit. This one in particular was quite useful because it comes with all the extras, but they are attachable. So the thing that comes out the box is the roller. That's all we need. This is what I mean, that this one has the roller at the bottom, and then it's got a wide toothed, so thick, I can't think of all the pasta names, but thick strips of tagliatelle, then thinner strips, then really thin strips. Still usable as the method we're going to use, but you can see it's a different shape. I've taken the bottom off this one too. So just bear that in mind. You might have one of these and it is usable. Just because it doesn't look like the one I've got, the principle is the same. So we'll come back to that towards the end. Oh, whoops, got a friend who wants to come with me. So out of the box, we've got So yeah, these are all the extra attachments. Can you see the different blades? So we don't need this, so we can put this aside. The pasta machine, so we do need this, and then we need the handle. There we go. So you've got a clamp, don't need this, and we need the handle. So in the box we can put back the clamp, and of course it's up to you, but it might be worth keeping these. So you could use it as a pasta machine afterwards, or when you get rid of it, but that we don't need anymore, so I'll put that away. So out of the box we've got the handle and the machine. Now if I turn the handle on the machine, can you see the wheels? So there's two rollers, and we want our paper to go in between, and if you can change this dial to make them get closer together, can you see they get close? It's very hard to tell. I might do a quick zoom in on that, but basically there's no way we're going to use these numbers. It goes from 1 to 9, and if you were making pasta you would, but for printmaking we're pretty much only going to be on 1 or 2 at the most. And if you can imagine, when it's on its side, those numbers are not going to be readable, so you need to sort of check that it's on the lowest setting when we put it in, and then if you're going to adjust it, it would only be 1 turn, and you'll feel. So we'll come back to the pressure adjustments at the end, but the only other thing we need to do is take this base off, because the base is designed obviously to be on a table so that you can use it as a pasta machine, but if we try and put through our printing bed, it won't go through. So that's the one adjustment that I've made, is to take this base off. If you didn't want to use a bed and you just wanted to put some paper through, you can. You don't need to take the base off. You could do the whole thing vertically. But in my experience, that's quite fingers and thumbs. And by taking the base off, turning it on its side and putting a long bed in, it really is a printing press. So this bed has 4 screws, which you can just take off with a screwdriver. I know that it has nuts inside to hold those screws, so once you take it apart, you can hear the nuts rattling around for ages. You can unscrew the sides to get those nuts out if it was important to you, and save them to replace the base. I don't mind, because I'm not going to use this as a pasta maker. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I'll just take the base off, and then I'll show you the wooden jig. So I've got an electric drill here, but you don't need one. They will come off easily. Oh, wrong way, don't screw them in tighter. Because it's got a nut inside, we might need to, prise it up as you're unscrewing it. You might need to pull the side away. I'll do it up from the side view so you can see, because it's not just a screw, it's a screw and a nut inside. So I'm just pushing on the base. There you go. So you can see one side's off. So if you see little screws, and they were holding that base on. So I'll just do the other side. So like I say, the nuts are now inside there, but it doesn't make any difference to the movement. I'm going to keep the 4 screws and this little tray, and I'll just put them in the box. We don't need them for the printing press, but you might need them if you wanted to put this machine back together and resell it. So we've got our pasta machine with no base and our handle. Obviously now it's quite difficult to work with upright, so we're going to put it that side. So I have made this wooden contraption, and I've taken it apart so I can show it you. I didn't think it was interesting to film me sawing wood. I have not done anything pretty to this. It's just some old chunks of wood that are all old. If you want it to look beautiful, you do that. I wasn't bothered. I just happened to have this lying around in my cellar. So it's a piece of MDF, this happens to be. It's coated in some plastic because it was an old inking board that I had. So anything, what you want is a base that isn't going to move around. That's all you're wanting to achieve. So it could be a plank of wood, it could be thicker MDF. Thinner might be a problem, but play with that. So what's that? Let me get a measurement, a ruler, and measure. This is just 1 centimetre thick MDF, and it's covered in plastic, vinyl wrap stuff. That's not important. I measured to the middle and I drew a line so that from the middle I'm then going to measure the width of my pasta maker, because they are all slightly different. So this one, bearing in mind I've got those little extra sticky out bits, it's about 11.5 centimeters. So I decided I'm going to make from the middle 11.5 centimeters, and I'm going to screw a noggin in place and then measure 11.5 and screw the other one in place so that I have got that gap in between. And you can see once we screw it, it's almost 12 really. So what I did was, the width of this is 20 centimeters. That was just arbitrary. I just wanted something a bit bigger than this. I think it's in total 18 centimeters. So I just cut 20 centimeters. Totally, you could have even wider if you wanted, or if you didn't want to cut the board, but you had something that was 23 or 24, that's fine. You just need to make sure you can get your handle in and around, at the edge of a table. So just bear that in mind. So if you can see, I need the handle to go in. And when I want to use the machine, I need the handle to be able to go fully round. So that was my only decision making there. So I cut 2 bits of wood I had, and what are those? They are 4 by 6 centimeters ish. I think I made this desk with these. I can't remember. Again, that's not true. I am advocating you don't have to spend any money on specialist stuff. Just use what you've got, or go to your hardware store and get something inexpensive that will basically do the job. The main criteria here is that when you've put your pasta machine in, will the press, where is it? Will this go through? So we've taken the bottom off to make sure we've got enough room for it to go through. So as you can see, this wood, which was 4 centimeters high, means it can go through. So don't have anything 6, whatever it was that? Oh, so that was 6 centimeters. So if you had a piece of wood that was 8 centimeters high, you're going to have the same problem as the base. So smaller would be fine as well. This could have gone on that way. So that's all that you need to bear in mind. And obviously with your pasta maker, the numbers I'm saying are relevant to this one, and I will put it in a bit of text for you. But with yours, you need to measure what is the distance to the rollers. So put your bed through and measure that. And it is literally 6 centimeters for mine. So, in fact, it probably would have been better for me to screw them that way, but I kind of wanted the support as well. So if I have to just pick this up a little bit here to go through, that was fine for me. I wanted the support, but screwing them that way down would have worked fine. So I'm rambling now. What did I do yet? So the wood is 20 centimeters, the width of the board, and I've screwed the first one on, I just pre-drilled some holes and screwed through, and then I measured again to check that where I wanted this next block to sit, and then, which is exactly there, meaning it was going to be 12.5, and then I've pre-drilled some holes again, so we'll put those through. And it took me a few times to get this right. You know, it wasn't something that just happened. I had the first time and it was too tight, so I unscrewed them, screwed them back in to make the gap the right size. They're not perfectly straight. Here we go. But I'm not about perfection. I'm about bodging it until it works. There we go. And obviously I want the back to be flat, so it sits flat on the table. But there we go. We've got the two noggins really strong. Now I can put this in, and I want it to be tight. Oh God, yeah, it is tight, but that's good. Yes, perfect. And really, I do want it to be that tight. Again, when I made it the first time, I left more of a gap, and then it rattles around. So that's, as long as you can get it in, that's tight enough. If it really won't go in, then you probably need to move one of these a few millimeters. We just check that once it's in and at the edge of the table. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it needs to go even tighter for that one. Ooh. Yeah, there we go. So, I mean, that's exactly what I wanted. And like I said, if you come to the end and you go all the way off, it does tend to then get a bit stuck on the way back. So you can, you just, don't go all the way to the end is what I was doing, but just put your finger under and help it over. And if that's a problem for you, get some smaller wood. Okay, so this is plastic, and this is the stuff I use to make dry points with. So it's a cut down. I've measured the width of my rollers, which were 14 centimeter gap, and I've cut a 14 centimeter by however long I had. I think I had an A3 piece of plastic. It's flexible, which is handy. The other thing that I have used in the past, which one is it? I think it's that one. Yeah, is old, and now I'm going to brand name, IKEA frames. They've all got perspex now, which is horrible. I want glass. But perfect for cutting up and reusing. So again, check your charity shops. Might have an old frame where the artwork's hideous, but it's perspex. So you can cut this with a blade and a craft knife and a cutting mat easily. Obviously, be careful. Some perspex is stiffer and a bit brittle and might crack going through. So just experiment. You definitely want flexible. You could use card. So you could cut a bit of thick card. The trouble with card is that it gets squished every time it goes through. So you'd need to factor that in. But use what you've got to hand. That's what I'll always say. Don't, again, never don't. If you think, well, I can't do that, I haven't got the right plastic, find something else. Find an alternative. There's got to be something lying around that you could use. Even a really thin bit of wood, you know, like the back of a frame board, actually, that might work. Back of a frame, the board in the frame. So experiment. This is just what I've used. It is not the only thing that will work. And in fact, you might find something that works much better, in which case tell me. So the only other thing that I've used is felt. And that's because traditionally an etching press has the felt blankets, which are designed to help the artwork, to help the paper mold around the artwork so that it doesn't crack or tear. You don't need specialist felt. This is just very thin, cheap acrylic craft felt. So I'm a sewer as well. I have tons of stuff in my stash. I just went and found some. If you've got really thick stuff, try it. You just might need to change the pressure. So it's all about the pressure game now. So I've got this set to a really tight pressure here actually, and I'll demonstrate that this now won't go through with the felt and the board. Oh, I mean it will, but I feel like I'm going to break it. Oh, that's too tight. So I can, oh God, in fact, it's so tight, I need to take it out to change the pressure. Wrong way, that way. So what was that on just for, yeah, that's like 5. So if I take it down to 3, and then we try. And this will all depend on your, oh, so 3 is too light by the looks of it then. Yeah. Oh no, it's just going the wrong way around. So yeah, 3 feels good. You can tell that there's pressure because it's, you know, the blanket's not going anywhere. So that means it's trapped between the rollers. We've got the bed and the blanket. Now, again, this is not a printing demo. So if you are interested in the printing, watch my other films to see how you print. And I have got some online courses about collagraph and Tetra Pak and drypoint. So I'm not going to go into how you make the plates on this one. There's plenty of information out there. But the basic idea is you would put down clean newsprint, or, you know, cut up newsprint. It's clean. Then your inked plate. In fact, let's do it with the plate that I used. So this is a Tetra Pak collagraph, very, very thin, you can see, but I would rub ink all over the surface in the intaglio style. Inked plate up. I'm not going to take a print now, this is dry. Then you would put your damp paper. Again, all paper needs different times to soak. This is 300 grams Snowdon cartridge, and I soak it for 1 minute. I would put that in, and then I might put some newsprint on top. And that is how you can adjust your pressure. If 3 is good, but you want an even crisper print, don't change the pressure on the machine. Just add 1 or 2 more sheets of newspaper behind it. You'd be surprised. So now, I guess this is going to be quite hard to go through, because if you think about that sandwich, we've got the bed, 2 pieces of newspaper, the plate, the paper, and 4 pieces of newspaper, then the blanket. So yeah, that is too much. Can you see? That's too strong. That tells me the pressure is intense. So I can take off some of the newspaper. Try again. Yeah, better, but still quite intense. So, and you need to experiment with this. Depends on the artwork you're creating. But I know that if I take it down to 2 and try again, that feels, yeah, I can feel it going over the artwork and the paper, but it feels comfortable. So again, I've gone too far, so I'll come back this way. And you might need to go 3 or 4 times, depends on your artwork. Remember, we're not taking a print because I didn't dampen the paper, but actually look, it's taken a bit because it's damp, because it's still got some wet ink on. We'll go, yeah, on the other videos, I go much more into pressure detail and how you adjust your pressure on your pasta machine for your art. But it's a very hard one to just tell you what's the right pressure, because what's your bed, what's your felt, what's your paper, what's the artwork you've created, what are you trying to create, what's the overall effect. You might want a very delicate print or a very strong embossing. So all of that is trial and error. This video is about getting set up with your pasta machine and this little jig, which will mean you have got a tabletop pasta etching press. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I will write down some of the details about the measurements for this machine, but like I say, you need to see what machine you've got, see how you can take the base off, and then start measuring, and hopefully you'll be able to make a fun little pasta printing press. Okay, thanks ever so much for watching, and happy printmaking.